I'm Dan.
And today we're doing an oldie but a goodie, Dogma.
Yeah, I was about to say a blast from the past, as it were.
Blast from the Past.
Yeah,
We could do Blast from the Past, the Brendan Fraser movie with
sure.
Alicia Silverstone.
I mean, it is the Renaissance, you
The
know?
Renaissance, yeah.
Yeah.
Christopher Walken's in it too.
Hmm.
Maybe that will be a future episode. Who knows? Um, but anyways, did you like anything this week, Dan? And by this week, I mean this month because I am so bad at recording right now.
I was about to say it's been a little bit, but I'll keep it brief-ish on a few things because I was maybe planning on doing an episode about a couple of them. But one I'll talk about, I watched The Beekeeper, which is the Jason Statham, John Wick-esque action movie that he made.
Oh, The Beekeeper? I
Yeah.
haven't seen that.
Well, I'm not going to go into like big spoilers or anything like that. I don't know. The movie was fine. Like I enjoyed it for the most part, but what bothered me more watching it was that of course since John Wick 2 especially, every action movie has to have like this big secret world thing plot cuz
Oh,
it's
yeah.
all like he's like the beekeeper and they're like more special than the CIA and special ops and they're meant to protect the hive and I'm like if that was real, they're doing a terrible job because the world sucks. And it's like, why can't he just be special forces guy out for revenge? It's like, oh, we didn't know his record and now he's special forces guy. Like, that's
Mm.
fine. Like, we don't need this other lore. Like, it didn't add to the movie. It just made it more annoying because then it just brings up questions where you're like, what?
That is fair.
Yeah. Like the only thing that it added was that they send another beekeeper at him. He
Mhm.
takes them down, and then he's able to use their finger to like get like equipment because he goes to like a stash house, right?
Oh, okay.
That was the only other time where everything he did could have been just done by like a special forces guy,
Right,
right?
yeah.
Like an ex special forces guy or whatever, right? Like, but
And
the action was fine.
Matt watched it. He said it was like kind of just a dumb action movie.
Yeah,
I
there
was
was
just really disappointed that it's not actually just about him being a beekeeper because that sounds like top cinema to me.
it.
Peak
He
cinema.
does keep some bees in the beginning, admittedly.
No, no, but just like that's the whole movie. He just lives
Yeah,
a nice little life keeping some bees.
yeah. And
That's
I was
just
going to say, the woman who plays Rumor from Umbrella Academy, she was in it, and the whole
mm,
time I like didn't recognize her, and I'm like, who is this woman? It was like bothering me,
oh no.
and then I had to look. I looked it up afterwards, and I was like, oh okay. Anyway, so like, mild recommend. The next thing I would recommend highly, enjoyed the hell out of this. Not surprising, Nosferatu,
Oh
Robert
yeah.
Eggers, Willem Dafoe, can't miss. He was back with again. It's got that mix of the historic and the true, to the era and the talk and the times and the wear and everything. It was just great.
Nice.
Nicholas Holt was in it, which I didn't know.
I did know he was in it, but I haven't like all the buzz around the movie never like talks about him. So
Yeah,
I'm like, is he bad at it?
no, he was great. The whole cast was great.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's a
And
lot of
Johnny Depp's daughter's in it too, right?
yeah, Lily Rose Depp, I believe her name
Yeah.
is. Yeah, it was interesting because I think like the Red Letter Media guys were talking a bit about it because I thought the same thing as them. That I was like, oh, it's kind of surprising it's not Anya Taylor Joy because I
Mm.
think it was supposed to be her, but they were talking about he's been trying to make this movie for a long time, and so probably now it was just probably scheduling conflict, and she's been busy, right? So if the project got pushed back, she just got onto other things.
He's doing Dune.
Well, yeah, well, and it would have been surprise. It would have been kind of cool because, of course, it was on TV the other day. The Menu that would have been a team up again of
Oh
them,
yeah, yeah, good call.
right? But
And the
uh,
menu is good.
oh, I know it was on TV. It was like 3 in the morning, and I'm like, I really want to watch the rest of this because this is really good. um, but I just watched up to the scene where Nicholas Holt has to cook, and it doesn't go well.
Yep, it's great.
Yeah, but
But
yeah,
his
Tyler's
I
bullshit.
yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But yeah, Nosferatu, highly enjoyed it. Would recommend. It was a good crowd too. Yeah, I saw it Boxing Day, which was so the second day it was out. But yeah, like No one talked. Everyone was into it, so I was just like, oh, it was a
Nice.
good crowd. Yeah. But yeah, and then moving on to some TV. Dune Prophecy season 1 finished up. Enjoyed that. As a longtime Dune fan, there was a couple things, of course, that I'm like, but it ended pretty decent, I would say. It's been renewed for a second season, so we'll see where it goes from there. Like I said, I'll probably talk about it more in something else. Lower Deck season 5 ended. It's the end of the show. They were
Oh,
canceled. Yeah, canceled after 5 seasons. Unfortunately, it was great. Like I think I spoke with you briefly about it. We did a small mini-sode where I kind of talked about it as well. I was blown away by how good it was. Good show. Highly recommend. Yeah. And then the last thing, on the back of Dune Prophecy, I think maybe a couple episodes in, I was curious because I've read Dune books. That's not a shocker to everybody.
oh,
But I want to go back and read the Butlerian Jihad books, which is the war that the humans had against sentient AI that
mm,
leads to the next stages of the story. And I was like, I thought I'd read the trilogy like maybe 15 years ago or more, but I read the first book, and then when I started reading the second one, I was like, I don't remember this as much. Maybe like some stuff here or there. Anyway, I read all three, and again, as I've always said, like the expanded Dune media always there's always something that makes me like angry as a Dune fan. This
mm,
time reading through them the second time, I was kind of like not as angry, more just thinking that it was overstuffed because
mm,
maybe they didn't think they would write more or expand as much because there was like storylines you could just rip right out and then the book would be fine. Like it would flow nicer and like, we would still get the same kind of, but maybe they just felt they had to make it bigger or more epic because it's Dune or something. But like there was two or three storylines where I'm like, just cut this out. Like, like I'm interested, but also cut it out, man. Like get back to what's important here.
I feel that's so hard because I'm trying to finish the third Crescent City book by
Hmm.
Sarah J. Maas that I started like back in February.
I was about to say, I
I
think you've told me about it before.
Yeah, I pre-ordered and I was so excited for, and
Yeah.
I'm like trying to finish it, and I swear I've read like another like 300 pages and I've barely made a dent in this fucking beast.
Yeah.
And I'm just like the whole time I'm like, who the fuck is this character? What are they doing? Why is this in here?
Yeah.
What's going on? What are they talking about? That's the whole book.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, and yeah, again, it's like I was thinking that yeah, maybe they just didn't think that they would be able to write more or whatever. But yeah, so I read the three of them. Like you said, they're like 800 pages each or whatever kind of thing.
Ugh,
Uh,
so
yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, you could trim them down and they'd be like a nice leaner 600 pages or something.
how many books are there?
It was three. It was a trilogy.
3? Just make like 500 pages and call it a day.
Yeah, well, or like I said, like you could do this trilogy where you do focus on the main war stuff, and then you could do another set of books focusing like or another book or two focusing on this other story, like because they wouldn't be enough for a book, but they would be enough for like, or they wouldn't be enough for multiple books, but maybe like one enough for one book,
Right,
right?
right.
So you just like you do that one, you do this one over here, streamline a bit. Again, they were written a while ago, or I think they were early 2000s. Anyway, uh, so they were all right. I read all three.
All right.
Mainly because, again, I was just kind of curious. I was like, what was some of this stuff and what was the possibility lore answers to them? Eh. But yeah, those would be the things I mentioned for me. What about yourself? Anything you want to highlight?
Yeah, my brain is a sieve, but there's a couple things that I remembered. Um, so I recently watched the documentary Harper and Will on Netflix, and it's about Will Ferrell, the actor from SNL, and
And the
uh,
trans person, right?
yeah, Harper T.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they go on a road trip across America because she's just recently come out as trans and she used to love doing road trips. And so, um, but like now because she's trans, she doesn't feel as comfortable going to the places she used to go, like dive bars and stuff like that.
Right.
So they go on this this trip together to like, I don't know, just
Do
to
the
like
trip.
do
Yeah.
the trip, right? And like reintroduce her to doing road trips as like a trans woman. And I thought it was really well done. It was like heartfelt in a lot of places and funny in a lot of places. And they did a really good job of not like, well, at least from my point of view, not like over dramatizing bad situations or over like sugarcoating good situations. They just kind of presented it as it was. So there was like one point where they go to like a dive bar that's got Confederacy flags and like, like fuck Biden and Trump forever or whatever flags up. And Harper goes in by herself and just ends up making friends, and people are talking to her and they're like, that's really great. One person like misgenders her and she's like, oh, I'm a trans woman, and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, ma'am. Like, and it's like really cool. And then Will comes in and they all hang out together, and so like it's just like a nice moment, but they're not like, they don't like push it, right? Like they just let it be what it is. Then there's like another moment that's really tense where they go to a steakhouse and Will Ferrell is going to like eat the very big steak in an hour challenge thing that
Sure.
some places do.
Yeah, like a food challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so everybody in the restaurant starts like and he does it, he's dressed as Sherlock Holmes as a joke. And everybody in the restaurant starts like filming, and it
Sure.
just feels uncomfortable to have like all these eyes on Harper.
Hmm.
And then afterwards Will Ferrell kind of breaks down and he's like, I didn't realize that I was sort of potentially putting you in danger in that situation, right? There was a lot of really negative tweets and stuff, and but again, they don't do that thing that sometimes like reality TV or documentaries do where they're like, "Oh my god, we have to get out of here."
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
where they like kind of over dramatize things, and like, somebody will like, I don't know, knock over a glass and they'll be like, "Oh my god, they're shooting at me," or whatever, right? Like they didn't do any of that. It was just sort of what it was.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend that.
Nice.
What else? What else have I been watching? I've been watching a lot of like sorted food on YouTube because it's like my brain doesn't work anymore. um, oh, I got an Apple TV subscription again because Severance season 2 just came out.
Yeah.
Watched the first episode on Friday. It was what I wanted it to be, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the season.
Nice.
So what I wanted it to be was weird, and it was. I also started watching a show called Palm Royale
Mhm.
on Apple TV, which is starring Kristen Wiig, Allison Janney, Allison,
I don't know.
whatever her name is, Carol Burnett, and
Nice.
Ricky Martin.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's set in like the late 60s, and it's about like an exclusive country club, and Kristen Wiig is trying to basically become a member, and it's just really interesting and well done. It's like pretty funny,
Yeah.
but also like the costumes and sets are overwhelmingly good.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, I've only watched a few episodes, but so far I recommend that as well. And then
I was going to ask you about something you were telling me about. What about
yeah.
the Fall Guy?
Oh yeah, I don't know if you want to do an episode on that.
Maybe, maybe not. But I was just kind of curious. Did you like it?
So here's the thing. I wanted to do Dogma today because I know we were debating, do we do Dogma or do we do the Fall Guy?
Yeah.
I watched the Fall Guy on New Year's Eve because we were looking for something to get us to midnight,
Mm.
basically, because we're both old people and we wanted to go to sleep so badly. But I also was like, fuck 2024, a really hard year for me, and I'd really like to toast the new year. And so that's what we put on to keep us awake. And I did enjoy it. I thought it was a bit like kind of silly, but I don't really mind. Um, but I haven't watched the last 20 minutes yet.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
But I do agree with, I think it was it Caravan of Garbage that had pointed out that, the stunts in it are really impressive, but because of the CG that they had to use over top of the stunts, it takes away from how good they actually are.
Sure. And a lot of, not a lot of movies, but some movies fall into that.
Yeah. So overall, like, it's fine. It's silly. I don't know. It's not life changing, but Ryan
Gosling.
Gosling is charming, and I liked Emily Blunt's character. The end.
Cool. No, I was curious.
Yeah, it was fine. That's that's basically it.
And I just wanted to piggyback on what you were saying about the Palm what, sorry?
I think it's Palm Royale.
Palm Royale. I was about to say Palm d'Or, but that's something else.
Yeah.
But like, no, you were saying like the production design was really good. That was one thing I did like about Dune Prophecy as well, is they took
Nice.
their cues from the Denis Villeneuve movies and stuff like that, and like the production design was, I don't know, off the charts. So
Nice.
sorry, but yeah.
Yeah, I think Apple TV has these really high production value shows with huge stars that nobody watches.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I did
There's a couple that do break through, like obviously Severance, like you're saying, and then
Yeah.
they used to have that one, like something about wolves or whatever, and then
Oh, I watched that. Wolves.
yeah, and I
Wait. I want to tell you about that. I watched a movie.
okay, so
It was called Wolves with George Clooney and Brad Pitt.
right, where they're like assassins or whatever, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a fun movie. I recommend that. They're
Cool.
basically they're characters from Ocean's 11, but they're killing people.
Yeah. No. That's what I think. I think I read a review that was basically that kind of,
Yeah.
that's what they were. They were like, yeah, they're capturing that charisma again, but they're just like hired killers or whatever.
Yeah, that's it. That's the movie.
Yeah.
They're hired killers, and they are not supposed to be working together, but they are.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was gonna say, yeah, like I've watched season 1 of Foundation, haven't watched season 2 yet, and I heard it was they're gonna do a season 3, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, which I was like, oh, cool. But like you said, it's just like it's on Apple TV or whatever.
Yeah. Well, if you want my login, I won't give it to you because that would be immoral.
Yes, it would break the TOS, I believe.
Yeah, I would never do that.
Who would? Speaking of, just a minor point as well. It was so funny because I was in Alberta and like The Beekeeper, this was it. We were watching it on Amazon, and I don't know what plan or whatever. We're like, there was an ad break in the middle.
Yeah, Amazon
I lost
now.
my shit. I was like, I literally went out, yeah, like on a 2-minute rant of just like, are you kidding me right now? Kind of a situation. I lost it. You know how much I hate ads, and it was in the middle of a movie, like almost in the middle of a line of dialogue. Like it was so bad.
They do really poor placement, but when you go on Prime with not my account, Wink,
I don't.
You don't? You don't use it anymore?
No, well, you don't have it.
Oh no, I have it again.
Oh, I don't know.
I thought I told you that. Yeah, you can use it if you want to. Anyways, you have the password. But what I was gonna say is, if you're watching it on your browser and you have an ad blocker, you won't see ads in it.
Yeah, because this was on a TV.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I just couldn't believe it, and I was like, "This is seriously happening?" Like, as they always talk about it. I think Disney Plus, even with like mine, I guess I have the higher cost. Well, anyway, it's all turning to shit. Is my point.
Yeah. It's basically turning into TV.
Yeah. Just why I've been buying Blu-rays again, because fuck that. But anyway, sorry. Anything else you want to highlight before we went on our tangents there?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Severance is good.
Sure.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's my whole thing.
Nice. How many episodes will it be? 6, 8, 10?
I think it was 9 for the first season, so maybe around that 9 or 8 or something. I think so.
But today we're talking Dogma, 1999, written and
Yeah.
directed by Kevin Smith, a classic.
Just at the top of the episode, 1999, such a good year for cinema.
I think it's not disputed that it's one of the best years ever for cinema.
I think it is the best year for cinema because we got this, we got
I mean, The Matrix trumps everything.
yeah, Mummy Returns, or no, the first Mummy, the
Yeah.
Mummy. Didn't Fight Club come out that year as well?
It's either 98 or 99, yeah. I think
Yeah.
it might be 99. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like every good indie movie from the 90s came out in 1999.
Well, there was a lot of genre-defining stuff, and like you said, a lot of technology was also changing, and then it just allowed things to happen, you know?
And the multiplexes.
Sure.
Yeah, because multiplexes started playing more independent films.
Yeah.
Because
Well, that's what I was saying.
they weren't really a thing, like huge multiplexes, like 12 cinema theaters and stuff
Yeah.
weren't really a thing before the 90s. So
Yeah, because I was going to ask, like, I saw this in theaters. Did you see it in theater?
no, I think we rented it. I think I saw it as a rental the first time. It honestly, it had been close to 20 years since I'd seen it.
Yeah, it was funny because I used to own it on DVD, so I would give it a spin every so often. And like I said, I literally just finished it now, but I was fully prepared to talk about it without having rewatched the movie.
Nice.
Yeah. And it was exactly what I remembered. It was just some pretty straightforward stuff, and Kevin Smith and skewering Catholicism and religion and everything like that. It was a classic.
Yeah, I'd say overall, I felt like it held up really well. There
Mhm.
was a few points that didn't sit as well with me now in 2025 as
Sure,
they
we'll get
did
to
when
it.
I first watched it.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, it held up really well. And what I think blew me away the most was how good Ben Affleck was in it.
Yeah, the whole cast like kills
Yeah,
it.
I mean, it was perfectly cast top to bottom.
Yeah.
But like I think that in my mind, Ben Affleck is a bad actor. But watching him in this, I'm like, no, he's actually pretty great. Same with Matt Damon's great in it too. But
Oh yeah.
the stuff Ben Affleck has to say, like his monologue in the parking garage
Yeah.
is really good and convincing. And
Mhm.
those are hard lines to make sound good and convincing.
Yeah, and it's good. Like not a full walk and talk, but he's pacing back and forth, and it's like
Yeah,
you can see he's just building the energy of like his what he's getting at, right?
for
And
sure.
I
Yeah.
love that power flip or that dynamic flip. And Matt Damon's like, I'm just saying, maybe you need a nap here. Let's just chill out.
I feel like Matt David in this movie has just a sprinkling of himbo energy, which I really appreciate and enjoy.
Sure. Yeah.
He's just there for the ride, you know.
Yeah. He just wants to do some smiting, you know.
Yeah, he just wants to do some smiting, and then when it goes too far, he doesn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, he's just like, whoa, this is not the smiting I signed up for. One thing I thought that was kind of interesting is it had a $10 million budget in '99, which is about 19 million in 2025 dollars.
Mhm.
And the box office, it was funny because it was listed as 31 million worldwide, but 30 of it was domestic. So it had a very small international release, I guess.
That
Um,
makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, so it made about 58 million in today's money. And this was also kind of funny to me. Like I said, written directed Kevin Smith, but Howard Shore did the score for the movie before moving on to do the Lord of the Rings.
Jesus Christ. Uh,
But yeah, I was just like, what?
I guess we should do just like a really concise plot summary for people,
Sure, if you want.
just just because I'm not sure how familiar people are with this movie.
Oh yeah, I assume some people have seen it.
Yeah, so I assume the people listening, yeah, like some people have seen it, some people have not, but it's a comedy, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
And the very, very basic plot is, um, I guess if you want to go watch it without spoilers, just go do that now. Okay, bye. Okay, you're back. Okay. So the very basic plot is, I mean, if you can find it, the very basic plot is that there's a new church opening,
A rededication.
a rededication to a church, and the cardinal, played by George Carlin, has decided that anyone who passes, as part of the rededication, anyone who passes through the arch will be forgiven all their sins and go to heaven.
Or at least at that time forgiven all their sins.
Yeah, at that time, forgiven all their sins and go to heaven. And there's these two fallen angels, played by Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. And oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. They they spoke. They told God that they didn't want to do smiting anymore. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, or Ben Affleck, Bartleby asked Loki, he's like, hey, maybe not smiting people could be a thing. And then Loki was like, yeah. And then God cast him out because he was like, no, that's your job.
Yeah, your job is to smite. You are
Yeah.
cast out.
Yeah.
So they've been on Earth for a while.
Yeah.
And they realize that, again, I'm going to mix this up, so feel free to jump in. But basically, in Catholic dogma, if a church says something is true, then it becomes true.
Correct. Because
And
Peter was the first pope.
that's right, yeah. So they decide that what they're going to do is um, cut off their angel wings, which will make them human, and then they will go through the arch and die
Mhm.
so that they can go back to heaven. Great plan.
Yeah.
However, there is a snag in this plan because if they do that, it would prove that God is not infallible, and the entire existence of everything would cease to exist. Um, so we later find out that this idea was fed to them by a demon played by someone. What's his name?
Jason Lee.
Jason Lee. Yeah,
Yeah.
because he used to be a muse who was cast out of heaven for not picking a side during Lucifer's revolt. Right? Revolt is
Yeah.
the right. Yeah.
Or Holy War, Crusade, whatever you want to say.
Yeah. And so he's been living in hell as a demon, and he decided that not existing would be better than existing in hell. And so Alan Rickman plays the Metatron, who is the voice of God, and he is sent out to find the last sire, right?
Zion.
Scion, who's like some lady that works at an abortion clinic. And so he goes to her and basically sends her on a mission to stop Bartleby and Loki
Yeah.
from completing their goal. And he provides her with two prophets, which are Jay and Silent Bob,
Mm-hmm.
played by Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith.
Correct.
And then he also sends the 13th apostle.
No, he goes on his own.
Oh, he comes on his own to help
Yeah,
out as well.
he's going renegade.
And that's played by Chris Rock.
One of the Chris's, yes.
One of Chris Rock.
Chris Rock, yes.
And the reason he's not in the Bible is because he's black.
Correct.
Yeah. And so they go on a mission to stop this, and there are shenanigans along the way. They have to find a shit demon. They meet up with um, another muse, which is played by Salma Hayek, and eventually, what ends up happening is that the last scion, the lady, she ends up figuring out that what happened was God sometimes pretends to be a human so that he can play skee ball in Asbury Park on the pier in New Jersey.
Or well,
And
somewhere he enjoys skee ball somewhere.
somewhere, but this is what happened in the movie.
In this time, it was New Jersey. Yes.
And this time it was New Jersey and Asbury Park. I've been there. It's very
Nice.
exciting. And so um, the Jason Lee's teenage demon rollerbladers beat the shit out of him so that he was, because if they had killed God in his human form, he would have just, or she would have just gone back to being God. But if she was incapacitated, like in a coma, then they wouldn't have been able to do anything.
Yeah.
And then luckily everything works out in the last 20 minutes of the movie, and it is revealed that it's Alanis Morissette as God, and she fixes everything, and the end.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, and you missed the last Scion has to euthanize a coma patient.
oh, that's right. Yeah, she does. I also skipped the subplot where
Yeah, we'll get to it.
Bartleby and Loki.
Yeah, we'll get to it all. But I thought that was that's a plot point there.
Yeah, she saves the day by killing an old man in a coma.
Yes.
Whew.
But yeah, just like you said, the last Scion played by Linda Fiorentino, also most famously from Men in Black 1. She plays
Oh
Bethany.
yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, um, Selma Hayek shows up, Alanis Morissette, Chris Rock as Rufus. Yeah, classic Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith. I like this about Jason Mewes. There's a funny story. This has been said in multiple films that he's been in, where in this one especially, like he memorized the entire script because basically he didn't want to because he doesn't think he's a good actor because he's
Right.
just like him. He's just Jay, and so
Yeah.
he didn't want to let Alan Rickman down or let the production down. So he Kevin Smith even told him, he's like, hey, you got to be like A game kind of thing because it's like a bigger production than his previous films. So yeah, he memorized the entire script. But this is not the first time I've heard that same story about Jason Mewes, because he was in Zack and Miri Make a Porno and a couple other things where he's dials in because he's like, I'm not a good actor. I don't want to screw it up, but it's like he is good at being Jay.
Yeah, totally.
Anyway, it's just an interesting kind of personal quirk about him, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I saw this in theater. I saw it opening night actually, and it was hilarious to me at the time. Like I said, I had it on DVD, gave it a lot of spins. I am not the biggest View Askew, the Kevin Smith-averse fan. I came to Clerks way later in life.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might have seen. No, I definitely saw it. I think before I saw Dogma, but I saw Clerks later in life because I'd always heard people make jokes or whatever, and I'd never even seen the movie. But I finally did. Clerks is indeed quite hilarious, and
So
I'd not seen Chasing Amy. I think until after I'd seen Dogma, even.
Yeah.
So I did like Clerks 2 a lot, but I haven't seen it any of his recent stuff really.
I think Dogma is the only Kevin Smith movie I like.
Really?
I found Clerks to be kind of boring.
Sure.
I found Clerks 2 to just kind of be obnoxious. I didn't see Chasing Amy, but I disagree with the premise of the movie.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think even he's said some stuff. He's just like, yeah, it was, not what we'd make now, right, kind of thing.
For sure. I haven't seen Tusks.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen any of that stuff. I think Dogma was probably the last, or Clerks 2, I guess, would probably be the last film of his I'd seen. I didn't see Clerks 3, I didn't see Tusk, I didn't see Cop Out, and he did Yoga Hosers, or?
Yeah, Yoga Hosers, yeah.
Yoga Hosers, yeah. I didn't see that either.
Yeah. and I have no interest to. But I really enjoyed Dogma.
Yeah, no, that's that's fair. Um, one thing that's pretty cool, I don't know, I guess, or do we go back into the movie, but this was kind of neat. Basically, I'd highly recommend a lot about what I'm about to paraphrase here comes from Blank Check with Griffin and David when they
Mm.
did Die Hard for their McTiernan series. They had Kevin Smith on as their guest, because
Oh,
of course
nice.
he was in Die Hard, right? So
He was in Die Hard?
Die Hard 4, sorry, he was in number 4,
Oh, okay, okay.
and he wrote a lot of Die Hard 4 as well. um,
Okay.
so he was in there, and so he had a lot of stories, and he talked a lot about Alan Rickman. And this was actually, I was not surprised, but like this was kind of solidified. Basically, it all boiled down to uh, one, when he was making Dogma in particular, he was saying that as soon as he was kind of plugged into like a bigger studio system, he was like, it was crazy the kind of access and things they could get, right? Like they got Howard Shore to do the music, and they'd be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, what do you think about this character?" And he's like, "Well, I don't know, maybe like Alan Rickman or whatever." They send him a script, like boom, like he's like, "We'll get agents talking," and he's just like, in the past he's doing stuff independent. You can't do that, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
but he said Alan was a fan of Chasing Amy and liked the script and was just like, yeah, I'm in and I want to do this if this is the script. And basically, he, him and Alan Rickman became friends. Like when Alan Rickman got a house in New York and they would stay. When Kevin Smith would go to like England, they would visit him and stuff like that. And he said he never really thought that he was Alan Rickman's friend almost in a way because it's like he's Alan Rickman, right? Like he was in Die Hard, but he just realized like over time they would hang out, they go to dinners and etc. And basically it's just like he was like the most stand-up guy. Basically, he was just saying that he was just such a good friend, and obviously his passing was very sad. But basically, it was just, yeah, he talks a lot on that episode, just stories about Dogma when he was in there, and like other projects that they wanted to get Alan Rickman in, and it just didn't work for scheduling or what have you. But yeah, it was just, I didn't realize that kind of thing, and
That's really
Alan,
cool.
yeah, he loved being on the project and was like, he was in basically. Like there's a small story, like when he has the maracas, he like
Yeah,
carried those around set and was just like maracaing people like all day or whatever. And they're just like, get them away from
yeah. That's fun.
and his intro is so great. He comes in and it's just like the burning fire and in the voice that she just fire extinguishes.
Yeah.
You got to use the whole can.
And a bat, and then he just flings
Yeah,
it
yeah.
out.
What are you gonna do with that fish? And it's like a running thing this whole time, like where he gets stains on his clothes, and he's just like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah. Anyway, but it was just like I was saying, yeah, like that. He's just saying like that access was so much different when you finally have kind of a studio behind you that you can just get stuff. Like you could potentially get Alan Rickman into your movie.
For sure, yeah.
Like I don't know how he even got George Carlin. Like he's only in a couple scenes, so it's like, yeah, just come out for a day. Is George Carlin in Jersey? No, he's from Boston. So I don't know, but got George Carlin in there for a little bit because like the rest of the actors, so again like Salma Hayek, Chris Rock, like they're like people he's worked with before, right?
Right, yeah.
So it's just kind of like, yeah, that's always crazy too. Is Salma Hayek in it?
I know, she's so good in it
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Like I think the whole cast, like you said, pretty much nails it.
Yeah.
And I also like there was I think I remember this from the commentary. It's Ben Affleck, and he was saying like how, or maybe it was an interview, but basically when Alanis Morissette comes on set, she's only there for like a day or two, right? And he
Mhm.
was just kind of like, this was of course Jagged Little Pill, and he's like, oh man, this like fiery woman with all this anger, and she's like, no, she's just like nice little Canadian woman coming in and being all like happy or whatever. And he's just like, oh, just not what he was expecting at all. Right.
I think that's when she was engaged to Ryan Reynolds.
Oh really?
Yeah. Do you
I
remember
don't know.
that? They used
I
to
do
be
not.
engaged.
Oh really?
Oh, yeah, back before he was with Scarlett Johansson, when he was on his Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, days.
Wait, he was with Scarlett Johansson before he was even a big movie star?
No, sorry. Scarlett Johansson was after Alanis Morissette. So
Yeah.
I I think Scarlett Johansson was after Blade 3,
Oh, okay.
but he hadn't done any of like the Deadpools or anything like that.
No, of course. Okay, but he, like you said, Blade was kind of a breakout role for him in a lot of ways. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's funny. I didn't realize. I didn't know that
Haha.
that he was engaged once to Alanis Morissette slash God.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's always it's fun again seeing young Matt Damon and young Ben Affleck. You know, classic combo, of course, Good Will Hunting and other things. And like you said, their interactions are really good. And yeah, Ben Affleck is really good. Like,
Yeah, for sure. Both
yeah.
of them are great, but I
Mhm.
was just like, "Oh, Ben Affleck's a good actor. Why did I forget that?"
I think it's I was listening to again maybe Blank Check and they had someone on who had worked with Ben and it's like he's good in the projects, but it's like the projects he gets like sometimes doesn't need him
Mm.
to be good in a way. Like so, it's just kind of like you know
Yeah, that's fair.
it not balances out, but and then other times like he's won Oscars for like behind the scenes stuff and
Yeah, yeah.
directing and stuff like that, and then he's in the town or whatever, and everyone's like, "Oh man, that guy is like really good," and it's like, yeah, he can do it when he wants to.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Can I talk about some parts of the movie
absolutely,
that I didn't love in 2025?
absolutely.
So, I guess the first and most obvious thing is every time Jay says anything, because he's so misogynistic and so sexist,
Mhm.
and I feel like if that part was written today, they would give him some sort of arc to redeem that.
Mm,
But even like in a big movie, I don't know, maybe
sure.
Kevin Smith wouldn't do this, but in a typical movie, but even like at the end of this movie, he's like trying to like hit on Alanis Morissette as God,
Yeah.
and I guess that has a bit of charm in itself, but I just kind of found like the misogynism and sexism to be just a little bit over the top of what I was comfortable hearing. So that was the first point. The second thing was I we live in a different time than 1999, and I was not expecting to be as uncomfortable with the like gun violence in golden
In the
uh,
movie. Yeah.
the movie scene as I
Yeah.
was. And I also it took me a little bit off guard the casualness of like I guess like child abuse
Mm,
um in um in that scene as well when Ben Affleck is going around and telling everybody's sins to Loki.
yeah.
Both of those things caught me off guard and just made me a little bit more uncomfortable than I was with it in 1999.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah. Even that line definitely stuck out to me as well. That I was like, "Ooh, you wouldn't do that now." And yeah, I was thinking. Uh, Not everything Jay says, but like you were saying, like it does remind me. Like I think in Jay and Silent Bob hit Strike Back as well. Like they definitely toned that down because that
Mm,
one again was a little more like Hollywood movie, and
right,
so
right.
it's like he's still spouting a bunch of nonsense, but it's like not as hard edge. And again,
Yeah.
this is probably something Kevin Smith would probably admit too. He's just like, yeah, he's just being like edge lord back then, right?
Oh, for sure. And I understand that and like I probably found it really funny in 1999. It's just like as a 40-year-old woman in 2025, I it just is a bit cringe.
Yeah,
Just makes me uncomfortable, that's all.
sure. No, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I still I love the idea of the movie scene.
Hmm.
I just wasn't I it caught me off guard that I was uncomfortable with the gun violence.
Well,
But
I
I
was to say, or because he's like reveling in it, because you can hear like
yeah,
Ben Affleck outside, like, and he's just like, "Whoa, what are you saying?" Or like, "Oh, this," so, like there wasn't that kind of reaction or like that
yeah,
outside like noise. If you, yeah, you heard the gunshots or whatever, and then it cuts back. You know, like the bus scene, right? Because you just hear like the gunshot and everyone run away.
yeah, yeah.
Versus, like you said, like there's not a reveling in it.
Yeah, I mean that makes me a bit uncomfortable too now, but less
Of
so than
course, yeah,
the boardroom scene. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I don't know. I just like I guess maybe because in 1999 it had an air of like absurdity to
I would
it.
say, or like implausibility that you're like, well, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, that wouldn't happen, and then now it's like, oh fuck,
Yeah, you're like,
we
oh,
live in
that,
hell.
yeah, like that could happen.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I totally could see that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So I think yeah, that those were my two main issues. Other than that, also like I remember the Angel's armor looking a little bit better than it did. It looked a little bit the spirit of Halloween.
Yeah, no, it was funny because I just finished watching the movie before we started recording, and I was thinking the same thing where I was like, oh, I like the breastplate, but then like the shoulder plates and like the little chain, the way it kind of like has that sort of clasp but not a clasp. I was like, you could probably lose a couple of those elements and it would probably still really work.
Yeah,
But obviously, well, not obviously, but I think some of it, of course, is to hide the harness for the wings that Affleck's rocking around with.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah. So, but you're right that even I was kind of thinking, I thought, yeah, like lose the shoulder epaulettes and maybe clean that up a bit, and then it would probably look a little better. But you
yeah.
know,
Also, the special effect of Ben Affleck flying in the sky looks very, very silly now.
yes, it did not hold up. Even
Uh,
the like the poop demon. I was kind of thinking about it when that comes up because I was like, oh, okay, because I was like, it's not full siege, but maybe it is. But if it's not, like somebody clearly is wearing a goopy suit, and like kudos to them.
yeah, yeah. I thought it looked like a practical effect to me.
To me, it did a lot. Like when it shoots like that siege, and I was like, oh, that's
Yeah,
not good. That's
yeah,
because
yeah.
that's I was like that's 1999 CG, probably 98, and lower budget. But then yeah, like the thing itself, I was like, I think that's just somebody in a suit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
it looks silly, but I feel like it's supposed to. So
yeah, like
yeah,
it works for the situation.
yeah, because it's a shit demon.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a shit demon.
Well, and it's funny in that scene as well. After Selma Hayek's dance, and Silent Bob wins out with the money and stuff like that in the gang. I think it's either a deleted scene or there was supposed to be a scene where Serendipity then like charms the gang to like reconcile with them or something like that kind of thing, but they cut it out because it doesn't make sense that suddenly they're chilling with the gang, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You know what? I didn't mind that. I feel like it
sure.
was just like Jay and Silent Bob charms.
Charm, yeah,
That's always like what my brain is filled in for
yeah.
them
No,
chilling together.
that's fair
But
enough.
I do love that scene of Serendipity using her muse powers to get bigger tips at the
Yeah.
strip club. It's so good.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And then yeah,
Although, again, because it's 2025, the Sexy Baby Act not as cool as it was in 1999,
yeah,
right? Like, people don't generally like adult women. It's not a vibe to pretend to be a child anymore.
yeah. You would go schoolgirl route or something like that, but not maybe child.
Not child with candy
Yeah,
or lollipop. That's what it was. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But
Just a side
oh
note.
yeah, but and then because I was gonna say, and then of course like later when she's trying to like get Silent Bob to hit it Azrael, and she's just like eyes the whole time, and he's like,
Yeah, that's great, and I love that he uses the Cardinals golf club
yeah,
because of course he would have blessed his golf club.
yeah, because he's an ass.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's a lot of special little touches like that throughout
Mhm.
the movie that just make me giggle at the idea of it.
Yeah, and like I said, a lot of the actors, of course, are actors he's worked with. So there's a lot of like Easter eggs in there, and then like a lot of like comic stuff, like things that people are wearing, and like you said, there's so much stuff in there. Like he does that on purpose, of course. Like even the cigarettes and the lighter, like the nails brand, it's like a made up brand and all that kind of stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
You know, it's got to like they go on the rant about the John Hughes movies, and of course in Jay and Silent Bob, they get Judd Nelson into the movie, right? So
Oh,
he's
nice.
he likes to be able to do that kind of thing, and people are into it, right? So
Yeah, I do like that that's their whole reason for moving to that town is
yeah,
because or moving to that state because of like the John Hughes movies, but then they all take place in a fictional town. And they just
yeah,
I guess like Google wasn't a thing then, but they didn't bother to look it up on a map or anything. They just up and moved there.
yeah,
So funny.
yeah. Because he's like everyone's a wuss except for Judd Nelson. He was harsh. Yeah. Let's see here. I don't know if you remember, speaking of the firearms earlier, when they're looking at the guns, you can see Ben Affleck in the background playing with a knife, and he's kind of
Oh,
like, and it was a real knife. He actually cut himself,
oh
and
no.
it's like in the movie when he's just like kind of thing.
Nice.
A couple other things too. I wanted to talk about them. Matt and Ben, their outfits are color reversed. I'm sure you noticed that. Where Matt Damon's wearing like gray, red, and like the black jacket, and then Ben Affleck's got red, gray, or sorry, Matt Damon's got the gray hoodie. But they basically have the same three colors, but in inverse.
Oh, nice. I
Yeah.
never noticed that.
And then I was trying to find, I didn't look close enough when I was watching, but Matt Damon has a button on his jacket, whereas Bartleby doesn't. And I was
Mhm.
kind of like, oh, I wonder what that button says, right? Because Jay or Silent Bob always has like a couple buttons, that
Yeah.
are always, movie in there, but couldn't see it in a good image. And I don't know if you this again goes back to when I even saw the movie. Is the font? Do you recognize that font?
What?
The font of the credits and the font of all the titles and the text and everything like that?
Oh, yeah, it's supposed to look Catholic-y, right?
Maybe, but that's the Exocet Diablo font.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which I love that font. It's a classic. Like that is so 90s.
Yeah, 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 totally.
Yeah, but it just makes me laugh every time I see it. I'm just like, that Exocet. So, like, 'cause you don't see it a lot
Yeah,
outside of Diablo.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, like for me, like I said, I still enjoyed the movie. It 2 hours. It went down pretty quick still, and not like it doesn't drag in a couple spots. They sit down. There's some exposition or some talk between some characters, but like that's the point. Like you said, there's references and in jokes and stuff like that, and then it just kind of like the road trip. They're going from point A to point B.
exactly. No,
Yeah.
it's still a very tight movie. I mean, I guess if I had to criticize anything, the first, like, our introduction to Lady is just like it drags just a touch for me. Like I feel like you could have done with one less scene in there,
Or
or
just
maybe
tighten it up a bit.
or just tighten it up a bit because that's the only part that I would criticize. I think.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I forgot to highlight. I've always liked because I always remember Chris Rock's like, he's just doing Chris Rock,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is
Right.
fine, and it works totally for the movie. But I always remember because as you know, I like to walk everywhere, and I always think about that. It's like back in the day, me and JC, we walked everywhere. Back in the day with JC, we walked everywhere. I
Yeah,
always
that
think
was
about that. Yeah.
good.
And I always love that too when he's like, "Hey, can I borrow your jacket?" And like you say, Jay's just like, "Dude, it's gonna be rubbing your armor." Anyway, but yeah, no, it is funny to just have Chris Rock doing like kind of like Demolition Man, where they just get Dennis Leary to like just do Dennis Leary,
Yeah, yeah.
and here he's just
Well,
doing Chris Rock,
I
and his
don't know.
name, of course, Rufus. Probably a nod to Rufus from Bill and Ted, played by George Carlin.
Oh, yeah, yeah, nice.
Yeah, sorry, I interrupted what you were saying there.
I was gonna ask, did you ever read Lamb by Christopher Moore?
Don't think so.
The Gospel according to Biff, Jesus' best friend.
No, I think you've told me about it before, but I don't think I've read it.
So Rufus has like Lamb has big Rufus energy. I'll just
Right.
say it that way. Yeah, it's a fun little read. It's kind of like the adventures of Jesus in that part of the Bible where you don't really hear anything about him, like
Right.
between being like a child to when he
Starts
you know
preaching.
starts preaching, right? And it's yeah, it's just a fun little jaunt.
Hmm.
It's a lot of Jesus going to like different spiritual leaders around the world and learning stuff from them, but it's like the adventures of Biff while Jesus is doing that, so the spiritual stuff isn't in the foreground, but you kind of get like he's off doing what he's like doing whatever while Jesus
Yeah.
is learning it. Yeah, I don't know. It's a fun book. It's a fun book.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, and speaking of, I always remember a buddy of mine. We were talking about this. Is that like at the time, a lot of the dialogue that like we were talking about the parking lot scene with Loki and Bartleby, a lot of that kind of stuff. There's a book that's basically it's about some angels talking essentially that kind of same stuff, right? Like this comes up in most movies that have angel stuff, like the Prophecy movie. I don't the first one in particular with Christopher Walken and stuff like that. It's the same kind of thing where it's just like, why are humans above angels? We were
Yeah.
created afterwards, right? So there's been a lot of writing in that kind of area. So not saying he's not, yeah, it's not his own spin on it or whatever, but it's just kind of like it was well delivered. But it's like that's that same kind of like ground, like the mythology and like the tears, as it were. Uh,
Yeah. It's like I mean, I guess you get a little bit of that even in like Good Omens too,
of
right?
course, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, and it's the same kind of, it's almost the same setup in that it's two angels, I think, that are guards to the realm of hell, and then
Mhm.
they're talking essentially about the whole situation, and it's a similar thing that they're like, well, why do humans get to be awesome and we're stuck here?
Oh, that sounds cool. This sounds like so this is maybe a little bit of a deep cut reference, but it's a little bit like Waiting for Godot. Have you ever
I've
read
heard that name, but I've never consumed or.
so that's about it's like not the same thing, but it's basically two dudes monologuing while they're waiting to get picked up by a guy named Godot after one of the wars. I think it's the First World War. They're just on the side of a road, like, philosophizing, basically.
Sure.
I don't know.
They didn't
It
have Netflix.
feels like it'd be along the same lines.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's always like it's an interesting philosophical question that it's like, you know,
But it's a funny trope, two guys just talking, because there's also like Gildenkrantz and Rosen. No,
or
the two.
yeah, yeah. Gillenkrantz and
Rosencrantz,
Rosenstern.
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
No, isn't it Rosen?
Anyways, whatever the fuck they're called from
Yeah,
Shakespeare, just like two guys, two kind of dumb guys philosophizing. That's what we are. That's what we should have named us. Two dumb guys philosophizing about movies and
yeah,
sometimes other things. And also, one of the guys is a girl.
yeah. We shortened it down a little.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
That 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 took us out of what we were talking about. That was a fun segue to nothing. Yeah. Overall, though, I agree. I still really enjoyed it. It's still a fun movie.
Yeah. I would still recommend checking it out for sure.
I guess like content warning for gun violence in a way that's presented as very joyful and funny. It might weak you out in this year.
Mhm. Yeah, I think like you're saying, potentially if they had like more budget or more time with the scene, they could have done something more over the top with it to make it less, you know,
I I
again,
I feel like if it was any weapon other than a gun, if you had a chainsaw, I don't think it wouldn't have been the same.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's just because gun violence is so prevalent in our society currently. And
Yeah.
on that happy note,
Let me just look at my notes here. I think I kind of hit everything I want to say, really. I would, again, if you're interested in some Kevin Smith talk, like, and not on his own podcast, because he does have that, that Blank Check episode of with Die Hard was very good. It's
okay,
literally like over 3 hours long.
nice, nice.
Yeah. Because they talk also about Die Hard, which is a great movie.
Mm, eh, it's okay.
What?
It's fine.
And then,
It's not for me.
oh yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Right now, they just started up a early Spielberg series. The last episode was about Jaws, which of course
Oh, nice.
is one of the best movies ever made. So,
Oh man, Jaws scared me so much. I just didn't want to go in the water.
I mean, that happened to a lot of people.
Yeah, I ran out of the room. I was upset by it. I had nightmares.
Well, that's what's so incredibly genius about it is that, like, there's all the stories about how the shark wasn't working as much and blah blah blah. So it changed from like Harryhausen to like Hitchcock, and it's like so effective. Like
Yeah, yeah.
everything about it, and
Too
even at
effective.
the end when it comes out and it's attacking Shaw, and it looks like a rubber shark, but he's selling it, and it's like the whole movie you've just been locked in about how dangerous
Yeah,
the
yeah.
shark is, and you're just like, no, the shark.
You know what movie weirdly like fucked me up the most though as a kid?
Probably something like either Never Ending Story or something else like that.
Oh, that's a good guess. Because I know that Never Ending Story, the horse scene, did it for a lot of people.
Yeah.
No, Stand By Me,
Hmm.
the scene where they jump in the water and they all get leeches.
I've actually never seen Stand By Me,
Oh no, okay, well there's a scene where these
but I can envision it. Yeah,
teenage boys jump in the water and they get covered in leeches.
because
And
Kiefer Sutherland's there.
I didn't swim in lakes for like 5 years after that. I was so terrified of leeches because
Yeah.
like I don't know, it just looked like the scariest thing. And the funniest thing is, um, I was like really upset about it after seeing the scene, and I was like, "Are leeches real?" And my dad's like, "Yeah, of course they are." And then he got out the encyclopedia because he was gonna, in his mind, like, we'll demystify this,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
blah blah blah. So he opens it. It's I remember that he opens the encyclopedia. There's like this anatomical drawing of a leech, but they've like depicted it having like all these like tiny like razor sharp teeth.
Well, yeah, because it does have teeth to latch onto you,
Yeah, and I was just like,
right? Nice.
yeah, yeah,
You never know what's gonna stick with people.
yep. That's what did it for me.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyways, we should wrap it up, right?
Sure thing.
All right. Well, thank you very much for listening. Let us know if there's something you want us to review. I'm enjoying watching old movies right now. The pacing is different than stuff is now, and it always catches me off guard a little bit that, you know, but how much movies change over time. So,
Yeah,
if you have an
very
old
fascinating.
movie you want us to review, please let us know. We'd love to hear about it. You can email us, tomeofuselessness@gmail.com. You can check us out on Instagram where I don't post, at Tome of Uselessness. You can check out our website, tomeofuselessness.com. Did I already say that?
Nope, but I do post there.
Yeah, Dan is so much more on top of this podcast than I am. If we got paid for it, which we don't, I would say like 90% should go to Dan, 10%
No,
should go to
it
me.
was just funny because, like you were saying with the Instagram, it's like I'm pretty close to deleting my Instagram.
Yeah, it's annoying, hey? There's so many ads on there now.
Yeah, and also just like it's the last thing on my phone that's like Meta slash Facebook that I'm
That's
just
fair.
like I just want to cut ties with that company so bad.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. We're not on Facebook. I think that's all the places we are, right?
Yeah,
Instagram.
yeah, and the website and
Oh,
our
and
Gmail.
YouTube. You can see us on
Yeah,
YouTube if you want to watch us while we talk. find us on YouTube. If you are on YouTube right now and you're like, I hate these faces, find us on Spotify.
And other podcast platforms.
Yeah, all of them. We're on all of them, I think.
I
Apple
hope so.
Music,
Yeah.
other podcast platforms, iTunes.
Yeah. No, yeah. Like you type in our name, we show up. It's pretty great.
Yeah, nice. Look at us, we're famous.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, stay safe and thanks for listening.
Goodbye.